Hey, this is Jake with the Tattoo Improvement Network, and welcome to another episode of Fireside Technique. I'm going to apologize on the front end of this episode. I did not intend for this to be a technique episode. It just occurred to me while I was working on this piece that it might be of some value to you guys, so I pulled out my phone and shot a little bit of footage, but it's not super high quality, and I don't have a lot of progress pics or progress footage just because I didn't prepare for it. So we've all run into this issue where we are working on a tattoo that is close to an existing tattoo, or maybe even connecting to an existing tattoo. And we finish our piece, and the client looks at it and they say, "Wow, that looks great. Can you rework the old tattoo to freshen it up to make it look more like the new tattoo?" And there are a couple of challenges to this. First off, we're typically working with someone else's mark making. It's not drawn stylistically the way that we work, so that's a little bit of a challenge. And then secondly, most of the time the client does not want to double the cost of their tattoo or add several hours in cost anyways to go back and rework an entire tattoo that's already there. So I thought I would go through and show you kind of how I deal with this whenever I'm forced to selectively rework an existing tattoo. So here you will see the tattoo that I did for my client Matt here, and it's a couple of wolves on his back. And in the waves that are over the shoulder are part of an existing tattoo that wraps over onto his deltoid. So I pulled into that existing tattoo and tried to match the color the best that I could, and I pulled it in behind my wolves, and I mimicked those waves going down his mid back and tried to kind of cap the piece and make it look as cohesive as I could. So as we move around his shoulder, you'll see that this is the existing tattoo that he wanted me to rework. And, it needs some attention. It's aged a little bit, but I didn't have the luxury of reworking the entire thing. So in that case, what I typically do is I look at it and I try to find where I'm going to get the most bang for my buck. To me, I'll always try to find or try to establish the hierarchy of the tattoo. Do I know what I should be looking at? Is there a dominant image? And if so, can I go right after it and clean the entire tattoo up by selectively cleaning up the most important parts of that tattoo? And in this one, it was the lily in the center of his deltoid there because it's the largest flower and it's light and warm and everything around it is kind of cool. So I look at it and I think, all right, what can I do to improve this thing? The one thing that stood out to me about it were those kind of really overly dark and harsh shadow shapes in the center of the petals. It kept drawing my eye in, and I didn't think it was very appealing. So I thought, all right, that's what I'm going to deal with first. I'm going to clean up edges, and I'm going to knock those out. You can't just go in and lay light colors right over the top of that, unfortunately, and try to knock it back. You have to do a little more, and it takes a little bit more forethought. So what I decided to do was first draw attention away from that area. And I did that by creating these folds in the petals and cleaning up the edges and making my folds nice and black and saturated so that the darks in the center of the lily don't seem as dark anymore. They're still kind of murky and muddy, but your eye doesn't instantly go to those. So now that I've got this part done, I go back and I mix up some warm tones that are kind of medium dark, not as dark as that and harsh as that black, but darker than the rest of the kind of warm and peachy off skin tones that are in the rest of the tattoo. And I go through and I created these almost exaggerated folds in an effort to work with the existing shapes that I'm trying to cover. Now, if I had gone through and tried to just create a smooth petal from, say, a brick red to that salmon tone to the skin tone, when it healed, I would see those little stripes of black starting to pull back through. So rather than run that risk, I decided to just use those to my advantage. In addition to that, I went through and I took some of those kind of true blues, I guess they are, or lighter royal blues, and I knocked those back with some kind of teal or minty blues. I wanted to cool those off just a little bit to help push that flower forward just a little more. The blues that were there were a little bit warmer. They were a little bit closer to purple, and I tried to use some blues that were a little bit closer to green in an effort to push that flower a little bit forward a little bit more. I also tried to lighten them from a value standpoint a couple of shades, so it wasn't quite so dark all around it. Now, when that heals, it won't be that light. It's going to end up as something in between. What you have to remember whenever you're packing light color on top of dark color is that you're not really setting a layer of ink on top of the old layer of ink. You're actually packing it into the same skin, and those are going to kind of intermingle. So this is the final result. This is what I came up with. I did go through and kind of work a little bit into that rose up in the top. I lined it in that same brick red instead of black in an effort to make sure that it wasn't competing with my lily in the foreground. And beyond that, I think I'm just going to leave it alone. He was happy with it. It's freshened up. I established a hierarchy. I smoothed that flower out, and it looks like it belongs a little bit more with the piece that I did going around his shoulder. And it didn't cost him a lot of money, and it didn't take a lot of my time, and everyone left happy. I hope that helps you guys. I know that was short and to the point, but I really hope it gave you guys some value. Thanks as always for supporting what we do, and we will see you next time.